remember him, don't you? That man you used to be. The one fire couldn't scorch, and no woman could completely tame. You weren't a man who followed trends or looked around the room, desperate for a nod of approval. No, you were the one who bent reality with the sheer force of your will. You looked at the world, and especially at women, not with a nervous, longing hesitation, but with the cold, unshakable fire of a man who belonged to no one but himself. You were the storm that walked through quiet villages, the hint of danger they whispered about. You were the man who didn't just enter a room, you fundamentally shifted the air inside it. Not because you were arrogant, but because you bowed to no altar. There was no crown above your own mind. Your will was your law, your silence was final. Your presence was an unbending fact of nature. But let's be honest, look at you now. You smile when she enters the room, not always from a place of genuine joy, but sometimes from a place of deep-seated fear. You find yourself laughing when you're uncomfortable, a nervous tick to smooth over a silence you once commanded. You tiptoe in your own home, a space that should be your kingdom. You obey, not always from a place of love and partnership, but from a desperate need for self-preservation. To keep the peace, every word is measured. Every step is a careful test on a floor made of eggshells. You've become a servant in the palace that you built, a palace that once belonged to you. You're no longer truly living. You're seeking permission to exist. You find yourself negotiating your own boundaries, like a beggar asking for scraps. You water down your opinions, you silence your instincts, you bury your truths, all to avoid the chilling wind of her disapproval. And the most terrifying part of it all? You call it love. What in the hell happened to you? This isn't a question of mockery, it's a question of recognition. Because there was a man who warned you about this, long before your first kiss, long before you gave away the keys to your own mind. He told you that your greatest enemy wouldn't be a tyrant with a crown or a priest with a holy book. He told you your greatest enemy would be the ideas in your own head that you decide to turn into gods. His name was Max Stirner, and he wrote, "The human being is to me only something that exists like myself, but not a higher power." And yet, you made her a higher power, didn't you? You turned her approval into your scripture. Her emotions became your commandments. Her comfort became your new gospel. And in the process of building this new religion around her, you forgot the most sacred and fundamental truth of all. Your ego, yourself, is your only true property. You were supposed to be the man who lived for himself, the unique one. Not in some shallow, narcissistic, look-at-me sense, but in the deep, raw, foundational realization that you are not born to serve an ideal, a tradition, or a woman. You are born to serve no one. But here you are, sacrificing your time, your energy, your dreams, even the very core of your identity, all on the altar of keeping her happy. And you know what the cruelest irony is? She doesn't even respect you for it. Because deep down, in a place she might not even admit to herself, she craves the man you used to be, the one she could never fully control. Stirner had a name for these things you worship. He called them spooks, ghosts in the mind. And you, my friend, are haunted. You're not haunted by her, the actual living, breathing woman. You are haunted by the idea of her. You're haunted by the spook of the good man, the ghost that whispers that a man must always please, that love is proven through surrender, that compromise is the highest form of maturity. You thought if you just gave more, she'd love you harder. But she didn't. Because what you were giving wasn't your strength, it was your submission dressed up in a clever disguise. You thought you were a diplomat negotiating peace, but what you were really doing was laying down your weapons, one by one, and building her a throne with the pieces. And don't you dare tell me it was for the kids, or for the sake of peace, or because, Her needs were greater than yours. Number that. Call it what it is. You surrendered because you were scared. You were terrified of being alone. Terrified of being the villain in her story. Terrified of being called toxic, or difficult, or selfish. So you made a trade. You traded your authentic truth for her temporary comfort. You handed over your fire for the illusion of harmony. And that is perhaps the most cowardly thing a man can do, to betray himself from the inside out and then have the audacity to call it love. Now let's be crystal clear. This is not a hate piece against women. Stirner didn't hate women. He simply refused to worship them. And that is the entire point. A free man, a unique man, doesn't hate or idolize. He uses, he chooses. He remains himself in every room, in every relationship, in every kiss. He does not give up his sovereignty for sex, for a quiet home, or for a scrap of validation. Stirner wrote, "I am the owner of my might, and I am so when I know myself as unique." Do you know yourself anymore? Do you even remember the taste of your own will? The unfiltered rhythm of your own thoughts before they pass through the filter of, "What will she think?" She didn't steal your power. You gave it away. Bit by bit, smile by smile, apology by apology. And now you sit quietly on the couch, watching her scroll through her phone, and you wonder why you feel so damn invisible in your own home. You used to be the man women feared to lose. Now you're the man she keeps around because you're useful, because you're predictable, because you're safe. The tragedy isn't that she might leave you. The tragedy is that she doesn't have to. Because the man she met, the one who burned with purpose, with certainty, with an unapologetic sense of self, he left a long, long time ago. He vanished the moment you started measuring your words. He died the day you put your ambition on pause to soothe her insecurities. He withered away the second you decided that peace was more important than your own truth. You called it maturity. You called it growth. You called it a partnership. Stirner would call it what it is, a sacrifice to a ghost, a surrender to a fiction of obligation that doesn't actually exist outside of your own head. She didn't break you. You broke yourself on the altar of her. You thought that by bending, you would finally be loved. But no woman who is truly alive admires a man who bends until he simply disappears. You hoped she'd reward your silence, your endless patience, your blind, dog-like loyalty. Instead, she saw it for exactly what it was, weakness disguised as virtue. You became a good man, a harmless man, a predictable man. But you were never again a dangerous man. And by that, I don't mean dangerous to her. I mean dangerous to the world, a force to be reckoned with. Never again her man, in the way that truly matters. Stirner said, "All things are nothing to me." This wasn't the cry of a nihilist who believed in nothing. It was the declaration of a sovereign who understood that nothing, no institution, no belief system, no person, has inherent power over you unless you grant it that power. But you didn't just grant it, you gift-wrapped it and handed it over. You gave her the authority to define your reality. You allowed her feelings to become your compass, her tears to become the ink that could rewrite your most sacred principles. And now, when you disagree, it isn't a healthy debate between two sovereign equals. It's an apology waiting to happen. Your apology. Think back. You used to live for your passions. You built things. You conquered challenges. You moved with a purpose that came from deep within. Now you tiptoe. Now you ask permission before you even breathe. What happened to you, brother? You were not born for this. Stirner didn't write his philosophy for slaves. He wrote it for the awakened. For those brave enough to look at their invisible chains, laugh, and burn them to the ground, walking forward with their own will as their only guide. She controls you now, but not with force. It's a much more subtle, insidious kind of control. It's the quiet tyranny of expectation. It's in her sighs, her glances. It's in the, "Are you really going to wear that?" It's in the dreaded 4 words, "We need to talk." It's in her almost magical ability to manipulate the emotional atmosphere of an entire house until you are compelled to act like a court jester just to make her smile again. And you do it. You dance. You joke. You apologize for being tired after a long day. You apologize for not being the man she saw on her Pinterest board of imaginary dreams. You have become a hostage to her emotional climate. And here is the cruelest twist in this whole tragedy. She doesn't even want the control she has. On some level, she resents it. She resents you for giving it to her. Because she didn't fall in love with a man who seeks permission. She fell for a man who didn't give a damn what she thought because he was already whole without her. She admired your distance, your indifference to the opinions of others, your absolute refusal to kneel. That's what thrilled her. That was the electricity. And the moment you dropped your sword to make her feel safe, she didn't feel safe. She felt disgusted. Women do not want to lead a man. They want to feel the gravity of his presence. They don't want to have to explain what a man is. They want to be powerfully reminded. And every single time you hand over your decision-making, your edge, your refusal to yield, you become a little more invisible, a little more disposable, a little more like the 100 other smiling, eager, desperate men she scrolls past on her phone every single day. Stirner's egoist wasn't a cruel man. He was simply unapologetically real. He didn't suppress his will for some abstract idea of love. He didn't neuter his own instincts just to maintain the peace. Stirner said, "Man, your head is haunted. You have wheels in your head. And you still do. You are haunted by the idea that to keep a woman, you must lose yourself. That to love her, you must worship her. That being needed is better than being respected. But listen to me, and listen carefully. A man who is needed but not respected is not loved. He is being used. You were the man women couldn't control because you never needed them. You chose them. And that choice, coming from a place of complete self-sufficiency, was your power. You didn't ask for love, you inspired it. But now you beg for it, with your silence, with your chores, with your unspoken simmering resentment. What a miserable trade you've made. You think being agreeable is love. You think letting her decide where to live, what to do on the weekend, how to spend your money, and when it's your turn to speak, is the secret to a harmonious relationship. You believe that if you just keep making her happy, pouring your energy into her cup, she'll finally stop testing you. Stirner would laugh in your face and hand you a mirror. "You have no self," he would say. "You are possessed by an illusion, a spook wearing lipstick and perfume. You thought you were being strong because you never shouted back. You confused strength with endurance, with your ability to absorb her moods and her dissatisfaction. But true strength is not quiet compliance. True strength is the power to say no and mean it, down to the marrow of your bones. It's the ability to let her be upset, to let her cry, to let her even threaten to leave, and to not move from your position. To stand like a god among insects, even when the bed is cold and her arms are crossed in silent protest. She tested you over and over, not because she consciously wanted to dominate you, but because her instincts hoped, prayed that you wouldn't fold. She craved resistance, not cruelty, not abuse, but presence. Will, certainty, the kind of unshakable power a man possesses when he is complete within himself. But instead of holding the line, you gave a little ground, and then a little more. And then you blamed her for walking all over the territory you willingly surrendered. Stirner's entire philosophy is a brutal, relentless assault against our most sacred lies. and the lie you worshipped most was this: a good man sacrifices for his woman. Number A. Good man lives for himself, and he allows her the freedom to walk beside him if she dares. Stirner didn't tell you to hate others. He simply commanded you to declare ownership over your own existence. He said, "I am not nothing in the sense of emptiness, but I am the creative nothing. I'm not defined by anyone or anything. I define myself." But you gave her the pen, didn't you? You let her rewrite you. You became a love poem full of her edits, her cross-outs, and soft, meaningless verses meant to flatter and appease. Is it any wonder she doesn't read you anymore? There's nothing dangerous left on your pages. Do you even know what you want anymore? Or have you trained yourself so well to predict her moods that you've completely forgotten the landscape of your own desires? You eat what she eats, you dress how she wants, you speak in a way she prefers, and you call that unity. It's not a relationship, it's self-erasure. It is spiritual suicide, and you are pulling the trigger one tiny compromise at a time. And still, you wonder why you feel anxious, why you feel small, why she flirts with men who look nothing like you, why her eyes seem to dim just a little when you enter the room. It's not because you've aged. It's not because you've gained a little weight. It's because you stopped being the man she couldn't predict. The man who made her just a little bit nervous. The man who never, ever apologized for being himself. You became the help, the planner, the dependable one. And in your quest to become her rock, you forgot that a rock doesn't chase, it doesn't bend, it doesn't whisper apologies to the tide. It simply is. That's the ego Stirner spoke of, the raw, undiluted core of the man who lives not to please, but to be. She doesn't want your help. She wants your spine. She doesn't want a yes man. She wants a man whose no she can feel in her bones. A man whose silence is louder than her chaos. A man whose presence cannot be bribed by affection or manipulated by tears. You were that man once, and you can be him again. But it will not happen until you kill the ghost of who you've become. The ghost who is always agreeable. The ghost who thinks being chosen means being owned. The ghost who traded his power for peace and ended up with neither. You sit there now, wondering why your fire died. Why she rolls her eyes when you speak. Why intimacy feels like a tense negotiation. It's because you've forgotten how to offend. Not maliciously, not cruelly, but unshakably, by simply existing in your own frame. Stirner didn't whisper his truth. He screamed it through the bones of every man who dared to be free. He didn't say, "Respect others before yourself." He said, "I am only concerned about myself." That wasn't a call for selfishness. It was a prescription for sanity. You were supposed to be untamable. A force that couldn't be bribed by beauty or peace or the illusion of a perfect partnership. But instead of walking beside her, an equal sovereign, you shrank beneath her moods. Instead of leading, you started asking, "So, what do you think we should do?" You handed over the steering wheel of your own life because she smiled at you sweetly, touched your arm and told you, "You're such a good man." And you believed her. You drank that poison because you desperately wanted to believe that being wanted was the same as being respected. But you forgot the cardinal rule. To be respected, you must first be feared. Not feared because of your fists, but feared for your presence. Feared for your unshakable commitment to your own path. She cannot respect a man who fears her reaction more than he fears losing his own soul. This is not a call to leave her. This is not a call to fight with her. This is a call to resurrect yourself. It's a call to tear down the paper-thin identity you crafted just to keep her happy. To burn the script you've been reading from for years, the one titled, "How to Be a Good Man," written by people who never understood what a man truly is. This is a call to reclaim your ego, not as arrogance, but as the simple, earth-shattering recognition that you are not here on this planet to be loved. You are here to be you. Love is welcome to join you on your path, but it is never required for the journey. She may scream, she may cry, she may threaten to leave. Let her. If you remain solid, if you walk back into your own kingdom without flinching, she will follow. And if she doesn't, then she was never worthy of the king you are becoming. You want to know what hurts her more than your anger? Your absence, not the physical kind. The absence of the man she once admired. She misses the man who didn't ask if he could lead, he just led. The man who didn't feel the need to explain his decisions because his life was not up for debate. She may have complained about him, argued with him, even tried to soften him. But that man, the man who made her blood rush just by walking into a room, is the man she secretly prays will return. You have been possessed, brother. Not by her, but by the image of what you think she wants. You no longer act, you adjust. You no longer speak, you filter. You no longer lead, you negotiate. And every time you do, the ghost tightens its grip on your soul. So what now? Now, you look in the mirror, not for signs of weakness, not for reasons to feel guilty, but for the last remaining embers of your fire. And you pour gasoline on them. You start speaking truthfully, even if your voice shakes. You reclaim your space in your own home. You start saying what you mean. You start saying no without a hint of shame. You lead without permission. And you let her respond however she wants, because her reaction is not, and has never been, your responsibility. Only your authenticity is. You were never meant to be understood. You were meant to be felt. And when a woman feels the presence of a man who does not need her, who does not shrink for her, who does not flinch at the threat of loneliness, she either runs in terror or surrenders completely. And either outcome is a victory, because the man who cannot be controlled is not a threat. He is a mirror. He shows her what real strength is. And deep down, every woman wants to be near that fire, even if she's afraid of getting burned. You want the final, brutal truth? Here it is. The world punishes weak men, not with violence, but with invisibility, not with outright rejection, but with a slow, agonizing emotional decay. And women, no matter what they say in public, no matter what they claim they want, never, ever submit to the man who worships them. They submit, body, soul, and breath, to the man who worships nothing but his own freedom. That's the man you were. That's the man you must be again. And when you finally rise, not as a tyrant, not as a savior, but as the sovereign of your own soul, you'll realize something haunting. She was never the one in control. You were, you just forgot. And now you remember. Like, share, and subscribe if this message resonated with you. Support the movement. The link is in the description. Stay tuned.